Howdy and welcome back, Kevin here, and this is the third video of a series about Appsmith Packages. Now, in case you missed the previous one about Appsmith Reusable Queries, I recommend you to take a look at it and then come back here because some of the things we did over there we're going to be needing for this particular video. Hey, throughout my career, I'd worked about 6 years as a front-end developer. I'm talking about the wild era when Flash was on its way out, jQuery was on its heyday, and frameworks like Backbone were just starting to make waves. I've written code in agencies, software companies, product teams, like you name it. And let me tell you, across all of those experiences, I've seen countless projects turn into piles of duplicated code, inconsistent implementations, and reinvented wheels. And it's not that we're bad developers. We're just caught in a trap. What is that trap? Tight deadlines push us to use copy-paste. Temporary solutions became permanent. And before you know it, a simple bug fix turns into a treasure hunt across the entire application. Now, low-code platforms have already made writing front-end code much easier. We have removed the need for boilerplate, library maintenance, and dealing with dependencies. We let you focus on what really matters, but here at Appsmith, we have taken it to the whole new level by providing JavaScript modules. We're talking about modular, versionable, smart pieces of reusable code to centralize your business logic, reduce development time, ensure consistency to make maintenance a breeze, and reduce technical debt. Now, in the next few minutes, I'll show you how JavaScript modules works and how it can help you cut development time in half, while keeping your code base clean and consistent. Let's dive in. Alright, let's learn JavaScript modules in Appsmith Packages, and it's really easy because it's very similar to writing JavaScript in your Appsmith apps, but in this case they will be reusable among them. And I have this very simple application here. It's just a table with some invoices that we need to process, and as usual, I need to parse dates. Normally, these dates that are on the database is going to be stored maybe in UTC or something that is not human readable, and you have to parse them. And the way you do that is maybe you write a JavaScript object or function that will do that, or maybe even directly in the field you will be creating some sort of date format. Also, sometimes you need a specific format for certain places, and again, that is going to continue to grow and create some technical debt. So let's build something reusable to start learning and warming up about packages. So let's create a package, and in this case, under the modules, let's create a new JavaScript module. And you will see the same JavaScript editor that you normally see in Appsmith. Very simple and standard. So let's write JavaScript. Let's write a function, and this one is going to be date parser. That's the name I'm going to give it. And it's going to receive a parameter, a date parameter. Now, one thing that is pretty neat about packages is that you can also use the libraries, the JavaScript libraries that you can use in Appsmith apps. You can also use them on your packages. So that means that I could use Moment.js, which is a library for parsing dates, in my package and then reuse them among my apps. So let's do that. Let's return that date that we receive as a parameter using Moment.js to parse it, date. And now let's format it. And depending on the type of format you want, you will use different formats. In my case here, I'm going to use the LL, which is a human readable way to parse a date with Moment.js. But you can just check back the documentation for a moment and use the one that you will need. And that's it. The other thing is you can pass default values to your function parameter. So that way, when we call this package, in case we don't pass any value, we're not going to have any error, just standard values for the parameters. So in this case, I'm just going to say that just for the sake of testing or for making sure that that's not going to fail, I'm going to have this hard-coded value here. The also good thing about this is that we can test it out. Let's test the date parser. Let's run it. And as you can see, this is what is returning. October 15, 2024, that's the human readable version of this date. All right, let's give it a name to this module. I'm going to call it date utils. And my package is just going to be named utils. There you go. Now let's publish it. Remember, this is really important because if we don't publish the changes, they're not going to be available to the apps using this package. So now let's go back to my app, and here let me edit it. And now I can go to the JavaScript section create a new JavaScript object, and here we'll be presented with two options. If I want to create a blank JavaScript object for this particular application or use a JavaScript module. Let's use the JavaScript module we just created, and there you will see all of the functions that are available for us to use. And here you can see that I can use the date parser, and I will see the parameters that it's expecting to receive, and I could even directly here pass a value, maybe using data binding or what have you. But for now, let's leave it as it is because we will call this directly in our app. And I'm going to call it date utils, just like that. And that's pretty much it. So now let me go back to my UI. And here on where I'm parsing the date, I'm going to be editing it. And my value is not going to be this. I'm going to be using the one that I just did. Remember, we gave the name date utils and now date parser, and there we will have to pass the parameter and the expected parameter. It stays the current row created at, and now as you can see, the created at is using the JavaScript module that we defined. That's fairly easy, very easy to use. Now we can use this in every app that has to parse dates and forget about it. Alright, so now let's learn how JavaScript modules can be applied to real-life applications. In the previous video, we used two applications for an example. The sales app, which is pretty much showing data about sales, the sales team, how we're doing in terms of sales. We have a bunch of charts, and also we had marketing-related data, which is getting marketing-related information. For example, campaign performance review, how we're doing in customer segment analysis, and we saw some things that were very similar. For example, this chart right here. Here we're showing sales data by country, for example, the amount of revenue, average order value, something very similar, but for the customer segment, the amount of revenue, average order value, amount of orders, but grouped by customer segment, which is important for the marketing team, and this one is important for the sales team. So how do we solve it? We basically created a reusable query, which is getting the data from the database depending on the parameters we were passing. So here we needed to get the segment data, we will pass the group by segment, or if in case we need it by country, we will pass parameter. But it's a single function, reusable across all of the apps. That's pretty powerful. Now if we go back to, for example, the sales application here, and we see the JavaScript queries that we have, or here's the query implemented, and there you go, we're getting the data from the package. But if we go to the JavaScript section, we will see that we're not parsing the data directly from the response from the query to the UI, and that's because those charts require the data to be in a specific format for the chart to present it. So we have this function here called transform sales data for chart, which is getting the data that we get from the query and is basically parsing it in the structure that the chart is expecting. So if we run that function, we will see that indeed here we're getting the order count structure as an array, and each object has the X and Y line chart, because that's going to be constructing our line chart, is the axis of our chart, and that's not the way that the query is retrieving it. So long story short, we have a data parser, and if we go back to the marketing app, it's very similar. If we go to the JavaScript function, yes, we are getting the data from the package, but we need to parse it again. There's repetitive code in each Appsmith application. So let's solve this. Let me just literally grab this function that we have here that are very similar between each other. And now let's go back to our packages and create a new JavaScript module. And now that we're there, we're going to call this maybe chart parser, chart data parser. And now let me literally delete this and paste the function that we had over there. And as you can see, there's not much different, like I said, between a JavaScript package and a JavaScript object at the application level. They're very similar. So now all we have to do is literally publish this function that we are using among different apps. And now we can go back here to the marketing app. And if we go to the JavaScript section, we'll see that we can now add the JavaScript module, the chart data parser. So let me do that. And now we can see the function transform segment for data. I'm going to call this the same way, chart data parser. And if I go back to my marketing data function here, I can delete this thing. Boom, I don't need it anymore. So all I have to do here is delete this thing and call chart data parser dot transform segment data for chart. There you go. And now, if I run this, I shouldn't see any difference. There you go. We're getting the same data. And if I go back to my UI, there you go. The chart is being printed. It's amazing. I can do the same thing if I go to the Sales app. Now let me refresh here so that way we can get the package. Again, let me bring the package. There you go. That's the function over there. I'm going to give it the same name. That's okay. And now if I come here to the data parser, I can literally delete this thing. And we're going to have an error here. So let me delete that. Again, chart data parser that transform sales data. And if I run this again, now we're presenting the data by country for the chart. And if I go back to the UI, now we can see that indeed it's functioning as expected. We can see the sales by country summary chart with no problem whatsoever. So now this module right here is calling data from a reusable package that is being now parsed by a reusable query. Now we can literally just go and build more applications that are fed by the same queries and are fed by the same JavaScript functions, but they will work with different data. That is the power of Appsmith Packages implemented for reusable queries and JavaScript objects. And there you have it, folks. We just taken a deep dive into the world of reusable JavaScript modules with Appsmith Packages. It's pretty amazing, right? Just think about the possibilities. Shared utility functions, common algorithms, business logic that's consistent across your entire organization. It's pretty wild. So what are you waiting for? Go and modularize your code now. Create packages, share your code, and watch your development team process becoming much smoother, faster, and more enjoyable than ever before. Until the next time, happy coding and may your modules be ever reusable. Take care.